Welcome to the Essex Board of Selectmen meeting, November 3rd, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order and remind everybody that this is being broadcasted and recorded by 1623. So our first appointment tonight is at 6:15. So Brendan, do you want to start with your...
Yes. In my report, the first item is an update on the Superintendent of Public Works search, because we're going to have a vacant position in early December. Mike Galley's retiring, and we got a good number of applications. At this point in time, the chairman of the Board of Public Works has confirmed that there are 4 individuals in particular that the Board of Public Works would like to interview. The interview will take place next Monday, November 10th, at the Board of Public Works meeting the interviews will start at 7. They may start meeting prior to that for regular business, but I'll be posting the Board of Selectmen for that meeting. The Board of Public Works ultimately has the responsibility to choose who the hiree is going to be, but hopefully the Board of Selectmen will be allowed to participate in the interview process and the discussion that follows in some respect.
Can I just say thank you for all of the screening that you did? I hate looking at resumes, so I was really happy to see you kind of just go through there and kind of help manage that process, and I was very impressed because
Well, thank you.
That's a bear.
Yeah.
And he does that, and that's one of those things that's like, but that really should be...
Yeah, but,
It's okay.
so thank you.
He's got to
Yes,
deal with the
absolutely.
ramifications.
I'd rather be involved.
So does that, the 4 includes the evaluation of the one that came in today? Was it today that one came in?
One came in, but that's not somebody that's qualified.
Right, okay, so that
There are 4 people that meet.
includes a review of that, though, so everybody.
Right, it includes the review of that, but that particular applicant is,
Is the process closed for applicants?
no,
or-
it's not. If an application continued to come in, like, for instance, if they have the meeting and decide that they don't like any of the applicants,
Yeah.
we want to keep hearing from people, but it's quite possible that they will select somebody from that field.
I will be out of town on November
10th.
10th, yeah,
Yeah.
so I won't be able to.
Did they see all of the resumes? Like,
Yes,
they did?
I
Okay.
asked the chairman to share them with all the members.
Yeah, I talked to one of the board members, and he did say he did see it.
So the next item has to do with an update on the Memorial Park tennis courts. We did have the meeting with the Conservation Commission. The selectmen had applied for had submitted a notice of intent looking for an order of conditions on the project. It was an interesting meeting, and it was very instructive. The Conservation Commission chose to continue the hearing, and it was going to be continued anyway because they had some technical questions that would need to have been answered at some future meeting. But this gives the selectmen the opportunity to look at the options for this project over the late fall and early winter months, because if the selectmen are going to recommend funding, and that would be likely approaching the Community Preservation Committee for May, the details of the project, and then getting that approval as far as the Wetlands Protection Act and Rivers Protection Act is concerned, getting that approval out of the way over the ensuing time period. So, there's an option on the low end that involves basically grinding what's there in the exact footprint that's there and repaving that, all the way up to an option that would both widen the tennis court footprint and go with post-tension concrete slabs. That would allow the project to proceed without being concerned about settling over time and making a new investment and then finding that the court surface doesn't perform as long. In addition, it would allow for minimization of going into the subsurface with the project because the concrete slab option doesn't go down at all, and it includes the receivers for the tennis court new fence without going down into the ground. The concern there is the town does know that there's contamination in the general vicinity of the courts. We found that when we put the sewer system in, and we wanted to go to the Conservation Commission with kind of the entire universe of what could be, but that doesn't mean that's how the project has to end up. It could also end up on a scaled down, in a scaled down sense. Things could include narrowing down the separation between the courts. That might obviate the need to move the roadway, but still use the concrete slabs all the way down to just a very minimal amount of fill and resurfacing with asphalt. So at this point, it really comes down to the selectmen's pleasure as to how you might want to collect more input in the future so that you can understand exactly what you want to do when you go back to the Conservation Commission for that continued hearing.
Brendan, are there any other local permits required aside from, I'm assuming, a vote by the Board of Public Works?
Board of Public Works, since it's their jurisdiction
Yeah.
in this whole area. But no, I'm not aware of anything else.
Nothing local, yeah.
No.
And a couple of things that we're talking about the building of them, but then they also need to be maintained. And I would like to get some idea of, I think, Peter, you've asked a couple of times, do you have a price range? Because if we have a price range of these different things, then it makes it easier to sell. The other thing that I questioned, are you going to talk about this other piece next?
The potential for contaminated
Soil.
soil. Yeah, so, you could think about doing soil work now, going down and doing some soil coring work now. The issue with that is that if you do core down and you do encounter contamination, there's a cost just to dispose of the contaminated soil that comes up in the soil cores, which we don't have funding for yet. It's something you could consider getting funding for in November in one of the existing town budget line items. But if you go ahead with the coring and you do find contamination, at this point in time, according to our engineering firm, they don't know for sure whether the town would have to chase the full extent of anything that is found in the cores.
Why not?
Because they said there's no,
Like,
Clear
aren't
cut.
aren't there if-then statements?
that's-
If we find X, then you have to remediate. If we find Y, just seal it up.
that's exactly what they're saying, but if you find the thing that you have to chase,
Yeah,
and we don't know whether we will find it or not, you have to be prepared then, not only for a small amount of money to get rid of the core soil,
yeah,
a lot more potentially to get rid of pockets of contamination wholesale.
yeah. So,
Go ahead.
can we ask some questions, or? You want to go?
Yeah, I just, is the site now considered by the state capped
Landfill?
contamination?
Well, so the town had two landfill operations. One was a burning dump behind this building, and the other one was over at Landing Road, and neither one of them are considered officially capped by the DEP.
But they're treated as capped,
They are treated in that sense.
and this is as well.
Yeah, there's never been any discussion by the state to say that the town needs to do any more with the actual disposal areas.
Yeah.
But that has nothing to do with potential
Core.
contamination from the railroad industry.
Oh, okay, but, so we don't know whether it's considered capped or not. They could come to us.
Didn't the email say it wasn't?
He said 30 years, they've had no sign of
Right.
something, right? They've had
Right, but
no-
that's, when you talk about being
30 years
capped,
back.
you're talking about a landfill. When you're talking about contamination potentially being in the ground from some past industry, that's just, could be dormant material in the ground that you don't know about until you do something to
they-
encounter it.
If they consider it, if it's old enough and they've not done anything with it, then it's considered, in their minds, that you don't have to do anything with it? Or
We
you
haven't
don't
been
know?
told that. The engineering firm is saying, depending on what you find, if you
But
find
don't-
something,
But if you don't look,
then
you
there's,
just leave it.
Right.
They're not gonna come in.
no, they're not
in
going to
10
ask you
years
to
and
look at
say,
it. No.
You need to deal with this.
No, but if you do look, or if you look in advance and find something, or you do go into construction without looking and then you find something,
For sure.
our engineering firm is saying that depending on what you might find, that would drive what the town might have to do to remediate.
And that would be considered like a 21E site.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or in some tier, some fashion. So that's a factor that the board will have to kind of consider and grapple with as well.
And Annie, did you have a question?
Yeah, a couple. You, in the email, said, if you want to exercise the coring task that is in the current contract. So that sounds to me that there is an option of not doing any coring. Is that,
Yes, they carried money for coring that's in the current contract.
did we ask for that? I thought we didn't want to touch
It was already included, and we said we may not exercise it.
Okay,
And if we don't exercise it, I'm going to want the engineering firm to monetize that, so we don't have to pay for that service. Right?
yeah.
It wasn't exercised because they said, if we go on day one and we find something, I think we know now that it could cost up to $5,000 to get rid of the drums of soil. Well, at the time, and still, there is no money in a budget
Yeah.
to do that. Something you could factor in to the budget by adding money to this year's budget at the fall town meeting.
So this is helpful, like this is good context. But I'm wondering if we could consider a subcommittee that goes and figures this thing out and then brings a proposal to us. Like, I think this is great, but I just don't know if,
Well, and you may want this reviewed by the new superintendent of public works,
yeah,
who is supposed to be a facilities person and an expert on things in the subsurface, engineering, et cetera.
Well, I would
So-
think that before we go too far along, we'd want to know what they think, the DPW.
Especially with their new person on board. I would
Yeah,
agree with
yeah,
you.
I mean, because we could go through a lot and.
They could
they
still
don't
say
want-
no. Yeah.
But they're probably not, they don't want to make a decision till they know more about this.
Right.
And so.
And,
it's-
and remember, right now, the Board of Public Works did not express any opposition to the selectmen using the gifted money to go and do a design. But they did not say that they're necessarily in favor of whatever the design provides. They just said, we're not objecting to you creating a design.
Right.
And that's where it stands with them.
so let me throw something here. If you hire somebody by December 31st or whenever your goal is, could that person just take this project, or would,
I think so. I would love that.
oh, okay. I didn't know if you,
Remember, I'm involved here
because we asked you.
Yeah, because at the time, the Board of Public Works indicated that with their current staffing, they were not really prepared to look at this,
Yeah.
even though the area is their jurisdiction, not the selectmen's.
Okay,
You have time, you have that time
yeah,
to have someone else look at it, and if it looks like a good idea to go forward, you still have time to go back to the Conservation Commission, get your approval for whatever final scope you think the project should be,
yeah.
and then move it on to the annual town meeting.
So one question I did want to ask you is regarding, because we're talking, if we kept the current site size and everything, can you ask one of our local fence people to look at it to see whether or not they could do something without disturbing it?
Yeah.
You know, because that would be a big, if they could.
I can find out.
Well, that just addresses the potential contamination. It doesn't address the impact of not having suitable material that's not going to crack. It doesn't address the flooding.
No, absolutely, but if the town people want to put this project together and they want the lower
Right.
Right, and there's,
option,
yeah,
I just want to see whether or not, before we kill ourselves over soil, if a fence can be replaced
Right.
without
Yeah,
pulling those out or doing something with what's out there, let's look at it. And hopefully a fence person in town could take a look and say, nope, wouldn't happen, or nope, we could do
Or
this.
maybe they could cut it, sleeve it, and go.
Correct. That's what
Like,
I'm,
that's a good idea, yeah. So I'll find that out. I also want to mention that the contamination that we did find when we put the sewer system in, and I've mentioned this before, we were allowed to take that out and remediate it, and it was about $50,000 at the time, just for what was in the trench, because it was related to a utility-related abatement measure. Putting in a tennis court, I don't know, is going to have the same type of forgiveness, if you will. And that's why I think our engineering firm is being a little, leaving some room for interpretation, depending on
Line
what.
it with solar. Gave it with solar panels.
There you go.
It's brilliant.
So I think I can, I'll ask about costs to maintain this option versus that option. I think it's a good idea to get an opinion from the new person, whoever is hired, and I can start talking to some people in the fence industry about maybe preserving the posts by using the posts that are already there.
I just
go
think we
from
should
there.
have the options. And, okay,
Anything else on that?
no, I thank you for
Not now.
getting that work, but, you know, I do think, once we can get it together as far as, what are we looking at pricing, and then, you know, because CPA, if it's $1 million, CPA can't afford.
Yeah. I don't think the town would want
Yeah,
a $1 million
it's-
project.
That's out there because we were trying to come in with the option, and now it's time for the hearing. Trying to come in with the option that would minimize or avoid subsurface disruption.
Okay. We have a 6:15 tax classification hearing. The Board of Assessors. Is it Steve?
Steve's not here yet.
Steve's not here yet, so I think you.
If he wasn't gonna make it, he was gonna call in.
Oh,
Okay.
is he on?
I don't see him.
Wait a few more minutes?
I
Then I
would
kinda
s-
have
if
to,
he's
right?
not here.
Right.
Okay, the municipal fuel depot, that project kicked off. The bollards that are there to protect the tank and the gas pump are all in the ground. The electrician for the fuel depot contractor has come out to the site, spoken with our electrician for good coordination, because we're supplying the electricity from the DPW barn all the way over to the fuel depot. That meeting was this morning. It's my understanding that by the end of the day tomorrow, all of the stub-ups that are going to come out from underneath the slab or through the slab has not been poured yet. Of course, they have to do this stuff before the slab goes in. That's all going to be ready. DPW will then understand exactly where our trench is going to terminate, and they also have to dig out along the foundation of the DPW barn, because there's going to be a kind of a junction trough there. But it's going very well. As of now, nobody is seeing that there's going to be any delay that wouldn't get this operational for this snow season. And nobody is calling out anything that would be grounds for a change order at this point in time.
And you haven't gotten any concerns, especially since over the weekend the bollards were there? Nobody's reached out to you?
No one has said
Concerns?
anything about it, no. The shingle problem, I'm going to ask that the board bring that up at the next meeting, because I'm still waiting to get more information from the original contractor on that.
Hello?
Oh, I think Steve's here now.
Hey, how
Steve.
you doing? Sorry, I'm a little late.
Okay, welcome, Steve.
How you doing? Can you hear me all right?
Yes,
Here, Joan, can you turn up the speaker a little bit more?
Can everybody hear me?
we're turning up the volume, Steve.
All right.
Yeah, we can hear that. Just speak close to your computer there, Steve. And Steve, are you calling together the entire Board of Assessors, or just you?
Are they present tonight?
Oh, okay, here we go.
Yes.
Yes.
one is.
One.
Well, Tina's online.
Okay, so yes, they are. So if you don't mind calling them to order.
All right, so we'll call the Board of Assessors to order on November 3rd at 6:20 PM.
Great, and this is a,
President
yeah,
Steve
go ahead,
Poulos.
Steve. I was going to say that since this is a public hearing, I think it's appropriate that each of the boards agree that it's time to open the public hearing for the tax classification.
Do you need a motion? for
Yeah,
that? So
I
moved.
agree.
Yeah, each board should open it.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right, so selectmen have opened the hearing. Do you want to call a vote, Steve, for the assessors?
Yeah, sure. I'll call the meeting to order for the Essex Board of Assessors, November 3rd at 6:20 PM. Present tonight, Steve Poulos here.
And to open the hearing, Tina? Sally? Okay, so you have agreement that the hearing is open from both boards. So Steve, if you want to do your presentation.
Yeah, so did everyone get a copy of the memo that the board prepared for the
Yes.
select board, the Board of Assessors prepared?
Yes.
Okay. Just briefly, we usually recap the market adjustments every year, and this year, commercial went up about 10%, and residential went up about 4% on average. And growth came in actually slightly below $100,000, which is a decent amount off our 3-year average. And we relate it primarily to, there's a lot of smaller projects, but a lot of the larger projects, large single-family homes that were coming online the last few years, were just not here during this growth period. And with that, if anybody has any questions, I know there's a couple new members to the select board. I think this is their first, possibly a second, for some classification hearing. I don't know if they had any general questions before we go through the 4 points on the memo.
I'd just love to have just any of the notes that he just gave in writing, so we have it for the record. Just about what, is that in the last page? This is not easy for me to understand.
Well,
Maybe
those are
looking
just
at anything
values,
you can-
Annie.
Let me
Pardon?
know, I can walk you through.
I mean, I can always do it
The
offline
page
if
that,
that's
if you're looking
easier.
at, if you're looking at the spreadsheet, I guess I'll move into, I think you're probably looking at a spreadsheet that has a bunch of numbers on it.
Yeah,
Probably a little confusing to look at. So if we look at, the first vote that the select board will be asked to take tonight is whether to essentially select the residential factor, and what that means is whether you want to select a residential factor of 1, which means a uniform tax rate, that the tax rate would apply equally to all property classes, so that's commercial, industrial, personal property, and residential. And if you were asked, and if you chose something other than 1, you would be shifting part of the tax burden from the residential class onto the commercial class. And what you're looking at with that spreadsheet is really just the result of shifting that burden across the different classes. And probably the easiest way to look at it is if you look towards the bottom, you see a list of values. I believe it's like 500, 750, a million, and 1.5 or something like that, and then applied to different tax rates. What that's illustrating is that, if you were to start shifting the tax rate from the residential class to the commercial class, the commercial class is so small in comparison to the residential class. Proportionally, the burden that they have to pick up, even with the smaller shifts, you see far outweighs the reduction, or far outnumbers the reduction in the residential class. So, so for the average resident at $1 million to realize $100 in tax savings results in significantly more than that on a commercial taxpayer. And for that reason, for number one, the Board of Assessors continues with their recommendation to still select a residential factor of 1 and apply a uniform tax rate.
May I ask a question? So are these, the 4 options, the only options that a town can consider? And I'm just asking kind of like generally, if you wanted to build your business community or small business community, would you ever, and I'm not asking this for this, I'm just wondering, as a strategy, how would you, is that where you would kind of, you would work with this number and adjust it if you wanted to like make it easier for small businesses to do something? I guess I'm just wondering, what are the mechanisms?
No, there's other, you wouldn't shift, the shift doesn't go the other way. You wouldn't shift from commercial onto residence. You would generally, the way that's done, if you want to promote economic growth, there's different like tax incentive financing through the state allows certain agreements for municipalities to enter with different commercial property owners where you can reduce their tax burden over a number of years to encourage them to, locate to your community in the sense that they'd save on tax dollars, but you generally would not do that with the shifting of the tax rate. And when you ask us the five options, there's an infinite amount of options between 1 and 1.5. You can go out, I believe the start will take out five places to the decimal point and anything in between. And then once you've gone to 1.5, you can get permission from the Mass Department of Revenue to go further out to a 1.75 shift. So you see some of the communities like a Danvers or Bedford, Burlington going out to the max shift just due to the fact that they have such a large commercial base, and generally it's made up of very high profit pharmaceutical and software companies, and that profile doesn't fit Essex, at least at this stage in time.
Thank you.
So if there are no other general questions, Steve, if you'll go down through the 4 points that you've prepared.
Yep. So that was one. That was the uniform. That was the shift to residential factor in a nutshell. And the other 3 are the residential exemption, small commercial exemption, and the open space discount. I'll start with the open space discount. This is something that, in a sense, it's similar to the shifting of the tax rate from residence to commercial. But what this does is this allows you to actually, if you were hypothetically to shift the residential rate to the commercial, you would come up with 2 tax rates. This actually allows, this is a 3rd type of shift that's allowed, and you would shift it by from internal in the residential class only. You would have a second tax rate that would be paid for by your open space discount. And what that is it's land that is for the reasons listed in that memo contributes to the openness of the community, prevents development, and it is classified by definition by the Board of Assessors, which Essex does not have a definition that has been defined by the Board of Assessors. Essex, like most communities, find that the chapter land programs are not only far more advantageous for the taxpayer, it actually gives the community some teeth to help prevent the land from being developed in the land that is trying to develop. And with the open space discount, those do not exist, and property owners can shift in and out of the discount as needed. And it's really not shown to prevent development in any way other than to just give a reduction in tax until the landowner decides to do something with the land.
So that open
So
space,
for that, yeah.
the open space discount is year to year. So,
Yeah.
is that correct? Yeah. So if somebody develops it, then it changes. So there's no real advantage for giving a discount because there's no longevity to it.
Yeah, and it would function very similar to chapter land and its requirements that it would have to meet, but it's also not as beneficial to the taxpayers, and it puts the community at a disadvantage. So really, in either perspective, it's not as good of a program as a chapter program that already exists.
Yeah, and the chapter programs are much more long-term, correct? So that you're penalized if you do develop it after a certain number of years or any time, right? You've been getting the discount.
Yeah, any time. Yeah, depending on how long it's been in chapter and different payback, different back tax schedules and things like that. And any questions on that before I move on?
I don't have any questions. Any?
Adopt it.
What's that?
Do we adopt them one by one, or do we
At the end.
at the end?
Because what will happen is, he'll go through all the options. You'll ask whether there's anyone from the public who wants to make comment for or against. Close the hearing, and then you'll have a series of votes. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, on to 3.
All right, we'll do small commercial exemption. So what this is a way to, it works similar to the open space discount, but it's with small commercial businesses that are less than 10, less than 10 employees. And the problem with this, and the reason why Essex has not voted for it, and a lot of communities tend not to, is usually particularly in situations with smaller businesses, it's in a situation where they are leasing space from a landlord, so the property owner, and so the business that you're trying to benefit typically does not see the benefit of the reduction in taxes that's seen by the landlord, and you don't usually see the savings pass through to the business that's occupying the space. The landlord just uses it to increase their profit, which is not a bad thing, but usually you're targeting the small business to help promote small business, not the space that they rent. So for that reason, we typically recommend that the select board continue to not explore a commercial exemption. Again, even if you were to vote to do it tonight, we would not be ready to implement a program like that. It would take a year or two of administrative work to identify and do kind of pro forma finance analysis on how that would affect the tax base. If we have any questions on that.
Nope. None?
Okay.
Okay, on to 4.
And finally, the residential exemption. So this is something, what this does is it shifts the burden from, this is a residential tax burden shift. Hold on one second. And so it's a shift within the residential tax base, and it's designed to essentially incentivize or benefit people who live in town. So a community that would use this would be like, you see communities on the Cape, you see usually the larger cities that are in close proximity to Boston, because they have a large, on a percent basis, they have a large percentage of homes, residential homes, that are owned by individuals that do not live in the community. So in that case, if you own a home and you live in that home in the community, you receive a discount. And so it does sound like a good thing, and it is for communities that work. But the problem with it is it's not just a straight discount and a shift. It's a recalculation of the residential rate. So you find the amount of tax burden that has to be shifted, and you recalculate the tax rate with that burden shifted on the non-resident taxpayers. And so what it does is now you have a residential tax rate that's applied to every residence, whether it's a homeowner that lives in the community or not. And the discount that's taken into effect that is applied equally to all the properties pay a higher rate on a discounted property. But it's probably not making a lot of sense here. But if you array all the properties from lowest to highest, and you reduce, say, hypothetically, $100,000 off every property in town, and then you apply that higher tax rate, the properties with the lower tax rate are going to benefit from it and pay less taxes. Even though they're paying a higher tax rate, they're paying on a lower value. But as you move through their array and approach the midpoint, the reduction of value of that $100,000 applied to the higher rate at some point, and somewhere in the midpoint is equal. The taxes that you would pay with the discount are equal to the taxes you would pay without the discount, with the higher rate. And then any property owner, now again, these are folks that live in the community, are now paying, even with the discounted value of $100,000 off their assessed value, you're paying on the higher rate results in a higher tax. So what you've kind of done in a community that doesn't have a significant amount of rentals like Essex is you've essentially shifted the burden off lower valued residences and shifted it on to higher valued residences. And, for that reason, the inequality is why the Board of Assessors continues to recommend against adoption of the residential exemption.
Thanks, Steve. So we know now that the Board of Assessors has recommended a residential tax rate of 1.0. That's an equal tax rate for residential versus commercial, industrial.
Yep.
And they
Correct.
are, yes, and they've recommended that the selectmen do not opt for the open space discount, the residential exemption, or the small commercial exemption. So at this point, Madam Chair, I recommend that you ask whether there's any public testimony about this process.
Is any public, any public comment regarding the hearing, that the Board of Assessors recommendations?
And anyone online?
Did you want to? This is just for the hearing regarding the assessor's office. Yeah. Is there anybody, I can't see it, is there anybody online that would like to make a comment? Seeing no attempts,
So I recommend that the two boards that are jointly assembled vote individually to close the hearing.
the select,
Moved.
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye.
And Steve, if you can call the assessors to close the hearing.
I move to, I'll entertain a motion to close the assessors meeting and classification hearing.
Sally? Agree to close? She does. And Tina? Okay, well, you have a majority.
Steve Pulse, yep, Steve Pulse. All right.
So the hearing has been closed. Now it comes down to the selectmen to take a series of votes.
And now we take the series of votes of each one of these, Brendan?
Yes, so the first recommendation is to adopt a residential factor of 1.0.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Second is to not adopt the open space discount.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
The third is to not adopt the residential exemption.
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fourth is to not adopt the small commercial exemption.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And finally, if necessary, to vote to grant the authority to the town administrator to sign on behalf of the Board of Selectmen on the Department of Revenue Gateway at the time that's necessary to certify this action.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Board of Assessors.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you, Select Board. Thank you, Brendan. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we want to do the public comment?
That's absolutely, if that's something you want to.
Well, we have other topics. Do we want to wait?
There are people here that want to talk about, since we already did the tennis.
But they don't, there might be somebody here that wants to talk about something else on Brendan's
Okay.
list at least. I don't know.
I know, but that's, you're asking me to do it early. Is that what I'm understanding? He's got like 6 more. So if you would like to have a public comment, we can switch it to now. If the public comment would be anything that's on the agenda. If you do get up and speak, please keep it to a minimum. And we have a sign-up sheet. We'd like you to make sure you fill in the sign-up sheet. And when I say a minimum, I may stop you if you go too long. So if anybody would like to get up and make a comment?
Do I just sign in before I start speaking, or?
Can you do 2 things at one time?
I might be able to. My name is Robbie Billsbury. I live at 126 Eastern Avenue. I am, this is hard to do, actually. I'm a resident of Essex, and I've been here since 2001. I just wanted to bring my perspective as both a resident and as the varsity high school boys tennis coach. You know, I love the work that you're doing, and I really appreciate the thorough, investigation. Obviously, there are lots of things to consider here with, possible contamination and other things. I just wanted to stress the need in our community for a public space for kids and people of all ages to be active and social. I'm a high school teacher. I see kids in screens all the time. I feel like we're all on the same page here. Just to have a place to go and be active and social, I think that's so huge now. And I also want to just add in the idea of, there has been some talk that, this existing footprint is too small to do a legal size tennis court. We have done practices there for my JV players, and it's been fine. So the existing footprint would work. I'm of the mindset of, obviously, you want to keep safety, paramount. If there's anything poisonous in there, we want to be smart about that. But doing it as economically as we can on the existing footprint, I think would be the best solution for everyone, because what I really want to do is have this happen and not have it be too expensive and too, divisive in the town. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Wilworth Dyer, 9 Indian Rock Lane, and unlike Robbie, I have to write down my thoughts. So, some of this was addressed tonight, but I am
going to say, we've heard a lot of comments, so if you can kind of keep it to, if it's something brand new, but Sarah, you've talked multiple times, if it's brand new, but we really...
Okay, what I want to do then, I understand where you're coming from. What I have heard, there have been a lot of comments not in favor of the tennis courts, either not at all or not behind Memorial, at Memorial Park. And I want to address those comments. One of them was, this was always supposed to be a publicly funded project. And
Privately.
privately funded project. In 2021, it started out,
I'm
You know-
not having you go through the
Okay.
timelines again.
All
If
right.
you have something you want to put on an email, and,
well, okay, let me explain. This is, what our approach is, a three-pronged approach that none of which would involve increase to the taxpayers. Private funding, of course, is always going to be part of the solution, the community preservation funds, and then public grants. And none of this would affect the taxpayers. I want to get that out there because there's some misinformation. In addition, the DPW doesn't have money in their budget to maintain the courts. That's a really interesting point, and we think the DPW should be deeply involved in this planning project, especially as it's going to be their responsibility to maintain it, and they have the most knowledge about that area. And we still think that building at Memorial Park makes the most sense rather than at Chabaco Lake or as part of the add-on to the elementary school. They all have problems. This is the best solution. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
appreciate it, thank you.
Hi, good evening. Mike Stroman, Maple Street. Yes, just a couple of brief questions. In light of the recent discussions on soils and sediments and contamination, that's sort of all new to me, given that the assumption in this contract was they wouldn't be disturbing the subsurface. I don't know where this issue has arisen, and it seems to be taking on a life of its own all of a sudden, which, certainly merits some discussion if needed. My questions really relate to, it's my understanding that this design plan is going to be provided to the town in phases. I guess this would go to Brendan in terms of where we are in the design process. Is this 30% schematic design? Weston Sampson alluded to being available to redesign based on input that we provide after this conceptual design or schematic design, as they call it. So my follow-up question is, how are they getting input? Who are they getting it from? And is there a mechanism in which, a vehicle that you can establish in which you can get consolidated comments from all the people in this room who are interested in this, bring broad various experience to the situation, and would like to get that input provided to you and to Weston Sampson so we get to a design that we're all agreeable with?
Well, presently, what they did for the Conservation Commission was beyond conceptual design. That was the exact detailed design for that scope. Certainly, the selectmen could go back at the second hearing or the continuation of the hearing with a pared down or a different scope. So that can still happen. As to how they would like to collect input, I'm going to leave that to the board to discuss.
Well, as far as this conceptual design, I understand they conceptually came up with a proposal back in April, and I suspect this Concom presentation was somewhat between 30 and 50% design, and they still do a 75% based on further input from the town. So my concern is that you get the input you need, not only from the residents with some expertise on these issues, as well as from the new superintendent, of course, the Board of Public Works. But it would be just nice to have some kind of a subcommittee, if you will, or just an opportunity to come at once, present all the facts and figures, and try to come up with a design that we can all agree to direct to Weston Sampson to come up with a final 75 to 90% design. Rather than, I don't know how long they're available. As I understood, the contract goes through December. Have you discussed with them extending the contract, or?
No, we discussed the fact that they shouldn't do any additional work after the first hearing that was held recently.
Okay.
Easily the contract could be extended if there's a period of time, which could be a period of months, in which the town decides to, study the matter further. I think you've heard tonight that the selectmen are in favor of at least getting the new superintendent involved with this, and perhaps looking to see how that person might work with the Board of Public Works directly, as far as collecting additional input, and when that happens, again, I gotta leave that to the board.
Well, is this the opportunity to ask the board to, what they're proposing to do for input? I know, Ella, you suggested input is needed. I'm just wondering how that would come about.
So the engineers gave us the caveat, that they gave us the big plan, and I think we all agree that that's
The caviar?
the caveat, whatever,
Steak, yeah.
my house. Which we know, one, it's a big plan. Do we need to do that? We don't. You've given us that viewpoint multiple times. We appreciate it. So we are looking at what else can be done. This is something that, why we're looking to see, okay, so the soil testing. If we had to do soil testing to keep the fencing there, it scares us because we don't want to end up with an additional 50 to 100,000 issue with bad soil. So that's why we also are looking at is there something else we can do to make the process so it stays within what the footprint is currently right now. As far as putting either a forum or a workshop together, I don't think that that's a bad idea. But I wouldn't want, and I'm sorry, I don't want just the room full of tennis people here who sit down and say, this is what I want. I want to get a viewpoint from multiple residents.
Sure, however
So
that
that
could be arranged, whoever's interested, for or against, with design ideas, that's great.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, is there any record of soil conditions based on the
I'm not going to have a
construction?
conversation. We've already had that discussion tonight.
I'm just asking about the backstop or the scoreboard that was built.
As
and
far as
built
we
into-
know, it has not. We did not hear anything about it.
That project was undertaken directly by the Board of Public Works, so the Selectmen's office did not have any involvement in it. They decided how it would go and what would be done.
Okay. And at what point would the Board of Selectmen pass this project on so that the Board of Public Works is taking the primary responsibility or oversight of the project?
I think it depends how they work with their new superintendent. So that's why I think the board wants to see possibilities there before they say anything more about it.
And those interviews with those candidates are
Week from tonight,
November 10th, yeah?
yes.
Okay.
And that's open meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
But they may not pick anybody.
Mike Dyer, 9 Indian Rock Lane. I have not addressed the selectmen directly on this, and I will be brief. A comment first, and then a question. I mean, my comment is about the downtown in Essex. I was on the long-term planning committee quite a few years ago, and we were really at pains to find ways to attract people to a locus of activity downtown. And I just want to put in a plug for if we are going to have tennis courts in town, they should be here in this park. We want to attract people down here. The businesses would love to attract people down here. We renovated this town hall. We have a beautiful thing here. So I think the tennis courts, if we're going to do it, this is the place to do it. My question gets back to something that Mike just mentioned and that you mentioned, Brendan, that there was excavation work done out here as part of a utility project. Were the soils excavated at that time characterized, and were they treated, disposed of? There must be a history of that, so I think there must be some data.
There is, and that's exactly why we are concerned that if any coring is done or any subsurface work is done, either preparing for this project or as this project is constructed, if it gets to that point, that the town could have an issue with cost associated with that material. When the sewer line went in, we encountered some material that appeared to be like a polyaromatic hydrocarbon type material, creosote, something like that, mixed with other things. And when the utility cuts through it, you are allowed by the DEP to take out what's in the trench, properly remediate it. That was about $50,000 for The
And that
piece
was
of,
20-some odd years ago.
it was in, it was in like 2005 or 6, something like that. And properly dispose of it, which we did, and then put your line through and cover it up with clean fill. And that's what happened.
So those,
So Mike, I'm going to ask you, is there any other comments you want to make? We're not having a discussion, this is not a hearing about this?
okay, I guess I would just say it would be great to know what the characterization of those soils were and what that stuff would trigger in terms of Circula or Tosca, what the alphabet soup of
I'll
environmental
send it
law.
to you. I'll send it to you, Mike.
Well, thank you, sure enough.
Can I just recommend that folks wanted to make comment that just send us the comments in full, so we have record of it? That would be great.
Yep. Okay, so we do have a full meeting, if there's no other comments on the tennis courts. Thank you. I lost track where you
Alva?
are, Brenda.
Maybe
I'm online and would like
somebody
to make a
online.
comment on tennis courts.
Sorry. Thank you. Online, Ruthie?
Yes, Ruth Perrine, 15 Lufkin Street, just public comment in relationship to the tennis courts. I've been hearing the conversation for several years now. I appreciate that the Board of Selectmen moved forward with using the fundraised funds for the design and permitting phase of the project, but I caution you that with each conversation, it seems that we're not understanding the depth of which this liability could be to the taxpayers. So 20 years ago, $50,000 for dirty dirt in a trench for utilities is in no way, we can't compare that in today's dollars for what could be an entire tennis court. So my comment simply is I'm begging the board to take that serious concern under consideration when you're making these decisions, and that we don't put the taxpayers in jeopardy of potentially millions of dollars of cleanup fees. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so Brendan, I think your next area is the regional school district?
Yes, so the collaboration group that runs under public meeting by the school finance subcommittee met last week to discuss really a variety of things. Topics included input on the state law on how the formula for Chapter 70 could be changed or improved, especially with respect to Manchester and Essex, budget outlooks for each of the three entities, the two communities plus the district, recap and discussion of the general audit conducted by the state, and a review of a recent presentation about the district's own special education program. There was discussion about how the town of Essex will be able to potentially afford this year's upcoming operating budget, knowing that even if the district came in at, say, 3.5%, Essex is probably still going to be north of 5%. And we talked about the various budget pressures that will be facing the town. And so there was some discussion about, in the future, is it something that the entities could look at with respect to the formulas in the regional agreement. We know from a meeting 2 years ago that the town of Manchester is not presently interested in that. And so, there were a variety of things covered. Alva was participating directly in the meeting, and Annie was online observing the meeting. The whole Board of Selectmen was posted, and this is an opportunity for any discussion you might have at this point.
So the CEY discussion, is there going to be a next step with the discussion of that? Or
I don't know. So the CEY is the combined effort yield. That is one of the things that goes into determining how Chapter 70 aid is distributed to the various cities and towns. And it takes into account both the tax situation in a particular town as well as the personal income level and situation in a particular town, with more emphasis on income than the actual tax portion of that, tax component of that. It was raised by the chairman of the subcommittee, who is an Essex representative of the school committee, not necessarily as something that should drive all of our decisions this year, but more in the context of the Chapter 70 discussion that was being held. But it was very interesting that as a metric, and there's no particular metric that is going to encapsulate, fairness completely, but as a metric, Essex is over 100% of its CEY slightly, and Manchester, based on that particular metric, is about 55% of what the number would expect.
Is it as big a deal as it sounds like it is?
Well, that's why in my report I did couple it with observations made by the chairman of the Manchester Board of Selectmen at the all boards meeting that was held a couple of years ago. And she is still the chair of the Board of Selectmen in Manchester. And her independent research, which wasn't based on CEY, was that generally speaking, a Essex taxpayer with the same value property pays more, higher percentage of their taxes toward the school than they do to the non-school part of the municipal budget. So those are two independent things that are suggesting that perhaps there should be a future discussion about the regional agreement. Nobody has said that they're interested in that. It's just something that came up, and I wanted to make sure that the selectmen were aware of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was an interesting meeting, but really there was no resolutions, no.
No action items or anything based on that information?
I think the school had a couple of action items to get us some information still. And we did talk a little bit about the special ed program, and I have to get back to the recording so I can, because I didn't get to the meeting that night, so I would like to see.
It's very good. It's good. It's worthwhile.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Couple things, just in terms of, it was impossible to hear if you were listening in online. I mean, it'll get a Jabra or something. I mean, that's.
That was in Manchester.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying it wasn't us this time.
No, I mean, it was just very hard to hear anything. It was hard to hear Steve Poulos, to be honest with you. I'm getting old, but I mean, I can still hear. It's very cloudy.
What?
In terms of special ed, that's also coming up in terms of the school building space summary. So I really would, if you have time to either of you watch that special ed presentation, it is informative, and whenever we hear that stuff at school committee, it's hard to kind of,
Correct. But, I will say back when I was on the school committee and I didn't understand SPED at all.
Yeah.
I sat down with them and they were talking then that, if we brought it in-house, then we could lower and it's not. We're not only is it more expensive, the percentage rises of students as special ed.
But it's a lot cheaper to bring them in-house and educate them here and develop a program than it is to send them out to some of these programs. So it's in there. It's in that data. So
I'd be curious to see if we had, have people moved in because.
It is what it is, and you can't you can't screen for that. But the other thing is, in terms of seating, if you ever wanted to seat a group to talk about revisiting the regional agreement, I would want to wait until after we decide on the school building project, because right now, that would be equal to where it's been for all other projects, and we want to retain that 1/3, 2/3
point.
split. So I think post building vote is when you would talk about it, and I think there are people who are willing to start talking about the regional agreement and revisit those things.
Yeah, we just need the projections, again, updated so that we,
Yep.
our finance teams can do the things. Okay,
So the next is the summarization of the town vehicle and equipment schedules and recommended replacements. The board discussed at the last meeting the individual responses of the departments involved here. So we're talking about the fire department, the police department, and the DPW. And I then went and took that data and standardized it so that it can be compared. And it's information that at least the Finance Committee could benefit from as they start to investigate the capital budget and the future capital budget during this planning cycle. I don't know if the board has comments on that.
my only comment is, so this file, is this something that each of the departments could keep up and, keep them up to date? Because,
There are
car
some- and
car
there's-
5 may be gone soon.
Right, and there are some data holes too that I could go back and ask them to fill in more if that's what you want.
Chief Shamshack is keeping us very up to date.
Yes.
In terms of this, I really like this document. Thank you for pulling it together. On the summary page, I tried to do filtered. I think you probably fixed what I screwed up, but I'd like to be able to filter it. But some of the data isn't filterable. Do you know what I mean? Like replace, I couldn't filter that or you know what I'm saying?
No, which column? Well, so. I
On the
think-
summary page, if you look up at the, replace, you have different data, so it's hard to filter it. It's hard to organize it by year. You can't do an ascending or descending order
The way it's filled in now.
under replace. Yeah, do you see what I mean? If your data was the same, you could do it, but that was the one thing that was frustrating, is like, okay, if I tried to go from 2025 higher for when they would replace it, I can't do that.
Well, what I could do is ask the
Make that
departments.
column special, and you should be able to do a year. And that way it can be filtered.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I could go back to the departments and say, okay, could you come back now with an actual date?
Yeah, I
Whether
mean,
that's 6/30 or 7/1 of a particular year,
yeah.
so that they're all a date, and then you could sort it and filter it.
Yeah, and then you can say, okay, we know we have X number of dollars in this 3-year period of time. What are the funds we want to use or think about using for supplementing or paying in total? So,
Right, and some of them don't have the cost listed out. I can go back to the departments, now that we have this, and they can all see it and see what the gaps are, and we can bring it back again.
is this it's helpful for me? I don't know. Do you think, is it
Yeah,
helpful?
I think the Finance Committee is going to find it very helpful, yes.
I'd like to see a note on every single vehicle. There's got to be something to say, just it's in great shape or, whatever. Something that's brand new should have that comment. But
Yeah, I
should
think
have a
the
note
only,
on everything.
I think you just need that from the DPW, correct? You have it for under
Fire, there's one fire.
fire and for police.
Yeah, I'll get more detail and more consistency, and we'll look at it again.
That's great. Thank you for
All
doing
right.
this.
Okay, now to the draft fall town meeting motions. This is just a draft, and tonight, if you have suggestions for other people to maybe read some of these, that's fine. The first 9 articles will be by the planning board, most likely by the chair herself. Then Article 10 is the new revolving fund for the police department. Alva, I have you down.
Yep, that's fine.
Peter, I have you down for Article 11, which is the amendment of the existing revolving funds.
Sure, yep.
Annie, I have you down for Article 12, but you have indicated maybe you'd want someone else to read that one.
Yeah, I'm going to speak against that, so I don't want to.
Okay.
You can put me down.
Okay, so we'll put Alva in for that. Annie, then I have you down for Article 13,
Sure.
all right? With respect to the mooring fees, that's not going to be that reader. I'll find somebody for that. Alva, I have you down for the implementation of the collective bargaining agreement because you were involved in the negotiations. Peter, Article 16, for the soil stockpile. Peter, 17, for the Tobacco Lake Study match.
Yep.
There'll be an undetermined, I don't have a reader yet for 18, but we'll see who the chief maybe wants to, or the harbor master wants to come up with there. It looks like,
And
Yep.
just so you know, if you want me to read it, but the chief has somebody to
Yeah.
do the background, that's
yeah,
fine also.
and he will, yeah. Firefighter Doucette is willing to read the tanker Article 19. Sergeant Bruce, the new police vehicle, Article 20. Article 21 will be Michelle French, the chair of the Community Preservation Committee. Article 22 will be Jody Harris, the chair of the Finance Committee, concerning the various special funds that the Finance Committee is going to recommend adding to. Then we move to the chair of the Board of Public Works on the Article 23 for additional grinder pump money. Jody Harris to replenish the Finance Committee's reserve fund, Article 24. Article 25, Jody Harris again, utilizing kind of a mosaic of closed-out projects that had balances in them, plus some free cash to arrive at $250,000 additional dollars to the OPEB fund.
Can I make a note that we go back and revisit that? I wanted to talk about that when you're done with the motions.
Sure, yeah. Article 26, we have Alva to introduce a change to the wage and salary scale with respect to the superintendent hire that we probably will know who they're choosing and perhaps who's accepted it by then. The Article 27, Jody Harris. These are the various things that could change in the current operating budget. And by the way, Articles 25 and 27 will have detailed handouts, as will the community preservation article. And Article 28 is for bills from past fiscal years, and that's Jody Harris. So Annie, you had a question about 25.
Yeah, it was, I appreciated the breakdown of all of these kind of remainders. And I wondered, is this the extent of every lingering bit of, I mean, this kind of came up for me when you had mentioned the Allen property, and then I went to the Finance Committee meeting, and they didn't know anything about it. And so this is all new to me, and I didn't know if it was new to you guys, and if there are other dollars that are available, not available, but are lingering.
Right, there are other lingering projects,
Yep.
but on those, there is not agreement that the purpose of the project is over yet.
Yeah.
On these, there is. And so if you'd like, for the next meeting, I could get you the list that shows the ones that are going to be knocked out, plus whatever's left.
Yeah, and where is that accounted for in the books? Do you know what I mean? Like,
It doesn't come up on a recurring basis because these are all special articles from this town meeting or that town meeting.
yeah,
And so the permanently standing funds get reported on a regular basis, but individual articles have never been reported on. They're either fully spent or reabsorbed, which is what the proposal is here.
Yeah. Because this is quite a cleanup.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
But I'll get you the list to show you what will be remaining,
Yeah.
and you can have discussion about that.
Yeah, I just want to know how it's accounted for, like who owns it? Do you own it?
And why is it still there?
Yeah, do you own it or does Michaela own it?
The department that is entrusted with the project, or the initiative that was funded by that, owns it.
Okay,
The town accountant on a regular basis goes through to say to each department, is the purpose completed? Are you done with this, et cetera?
yeah, okay, thank you.
Anything else on the motions?
But that's not going to change your, this is,
I don't think so,
I
no.
was just kind of surprised to see it and wanted to know.
Right, and I think if there's question or debate about the other things that are not proposed right now, they could be proposed in the spring
Yeah,
to clean up everything that people are in agreement on.
yeah, no, I
the same
appreciate
thing, we
this.
did that just recently with the CPA funds. So
Yes, we did.
it looked like we needed to do it.
Yep. Next, the state legislative earmarks update. The town is receiving $30,000 towards Chabaco Lake. That benefits both Hamilton and Essex, and both communities are going to come up with $15,000 each. We do not yet have paperwork on that, and also there's $60,000 for the first part of a study of the 3 town-owned bridges. Waiting for that paperwork. The bridges is with DOT, and the Chabaco is with DCR. And what I'm recommending is that the board authorize the chairman to sign the paperwork for each one when it becomes available, which should be pretty soon.
So I'm going to entertain a motion to authorize the chairman to sign the earmark amounts that, contracts, when they become available.
So moved.
All those- Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have the green crab trapping. There is a new grant, which periodically the Division of Marine Fisheries releases, and this is so that the town can pay people, after they get a license from DMF, to go and trap the green crabs and dispose of them. And this year's grant amount is $11,375. We do have the paperwork for that, and I'm recommending that the board authorize the chairman to sign that grant contract.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Could I ask a question about this? Maybe you're the person to answer, but the Phragmites and the green crabs, like, how do we know how we're doing against that?
Well, that's a very good question, and
Sorry.
the Phragmites is much easier. Town of Essex isn't, as far as I know, doing anything in the salt marsh on Phragmites. But that is much more measurable, and something is done there. With the green crab, it's really based on hearsay from the trappers and clammers, and how prolific they are any given year, as well as the amount of crabs that they're paid to pull out. But how many are left? There's really not a good measure of that, and we want to get a handle on that, because if we ever do develop a market for green crabs, we want to know how consistent that market would be. But at this point, we really don't know, so we're relying on unreliable sources for the most part. But we know that there are thousands of pounds of green crabs being removed, and some of the trappers claim that it is making a difference, but there are other factors that affect the numbers and population of the green crab in any given year. So who knows whether they're seeing that or whether they're seeing the real removal. It's quite complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I just ask, I know that Bruce Tarr has brought this subject up multiple times. Is it just here that has them, or are they in every area that has?
They're from Nova Scotia, Iceland, all the way down to really Connecticut, more or less, in the Northeast, but they're in, on the West Coast, they're all over the place. They're invasive everywhere, but we're really focusing, and Bruce Tarr is the chairman of the Green Crab Task Force, so that's why he's so involved with it. And all of his communities are Great Marsh communities, and so that's where he's focusing his effort.
And so is this a global thing that's trying to figure out what you can do with the green crabs? I mean,
No, and that's what our summit that we had about 2 weeks ago was, to try to start to get that effort going, and looking at what might be happening within the United States and even throughout the world with green crabs as a potential for reducing their numbers in a beneficial use at a large scale. So that's where we're heading, but it's not happened yet.
okay.
And finally, the adoption of the updated federal hazard mitigation plan. I had provided a draft of that to the board, I think around the time of the last meeting. And Annie noticed that there were some typographical errors and an errant reference to another community. That's been,
Marlboro.
Marlboro.
that's been fixed and cleaned up, and in fact, our consultant at MAPC has provided a new draft. And so if the board is amenable, there can be a resolution, which I will read if the chair wants me to read that, so you can consider it for a vote.
I have some questions. Is that okay? Just because this is my first round with this. I know you guys have been deep in it for a while, but just looking at some of the things that were mentioned in it, the floodproofing of the Main Street sewage pump station, water line extension on Canoma Road and on Southern Avenue, complete interconnection with Gloucester. These were just some goals that were noted in the, and I just wondered, how are you guys building that into your long-range plan? Like, where does it fit? We don't have the money for any of these things, how is, I guess just from 30,000 feet, how is the state kind of looking at these things? Because it's FEMA, I'm assuming, that would want to do some of these things. You talked about some of this with Seth Moulton, but kind of like, how do you look at these things regionally? Because even the Great Marsh stuff, I mean, you would never be able to do something in isolation for just our marsh, because it's not going to work that way. It has to be an extensive. So I just wondered if you could kind of just provide me with the context.
The regional coordination, I think we're going to see a lot of good coordination out of Town Green on this. I think we're going to see the Essex County Community Foundation, who continues to fund this type of work on a regional basis, and Bruce Tarr's group, the North Shore Coastal Collaborative. Those are the groups that are going to hopefully help the communities to figure out what thing overlaps with the other, and some of the sequencing. By and large, the things that you mentioned and other things in the plan, we're talking about federal grant money. And right now, we just don't know where that's headed or where that's going. So there is a local match usually, and it's usually 25%. And that's the amount that we need to plan for. The projects are so large in scope that the plan itself serves as that roadmap, but you're only going to be able to pick off one at a time. And one of them is going to take years to complete.
But you're not going to be able to even apply for a grant unless you have it in
the plan.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So, as far-reaching as it might be to think about doing, you need to, if the money does come along, you want to have it in your plan.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just wondering, you don't assign, like, you said you didn't prioritize an order in the goals, right? And so, I mean, we don't have to answer this now. It's just like the question of prioritization, timing, funding. What, do you have the answers for all three of those
Somebody's
things?
going to have to
It-
be on the ball,
it
correct?
comes-
Like,
They're
Yeah.
so expensive that
Yeah.
it's gonna be when there's funding available.
It comes down to what is in vogue, and does that match with one of the things we're gonna do?
Yeah,
You know, we were all ready to go for protect money, $3 million just to do an alternatives analysis on the causeway. And it was almost out the door until this whole federal funding scene changed. And we went for that because it was something new that applied directly to what we were doing.
yeah,
And it will be the same with some of these other things. Once this, the available federal programs reemerge in some fashion.
yeah.
And they might be renamed, and they might even have different scopes or different emphases.
And then I just have some quick questions. In terms of the groundwater concerns, there were no groundwater concerns about the wells or the lake, but what about the water quality? It was like, the levels weren't a problem, but it was like the quality. And I know we have to close the lake all the time in the summer.
That's correct with respect to the lake. With respect to the drinking water, we're not noticing in the source water anything of note, because by the time that water makes it through the sand and gets to the well,
Yeah,
the bacteriological problem is gone,
okay.
or the biological problems are gone. As far as the lake itself is concerned, that's being studied through the earmark
15,000,
process,
yeah.
which is now, I think, our 4th year of earmarks.
Yeah, and then I just also wondered about these goals. Are we all aligned on them? You know, does the DPW have the same understanding of this report and kind of like the critical areas that we need to protect and, like, they were talking about the flooding and drainage.
They were all, so fire, police, DPW, Board of Health, they were all involved in the group. It's been the better part of 2 years since we started the kickoff to updating this plan. And we had representation from all of those groups all the way through, which is why some of those things are on there. Some of the things on there are just because the DPW itself said, we know about these issues that other departments wouldn't know anything about.
And the issue with the drains and then stormwater infrastructure, those are owned by departments and they
Yes.
monitor and manage that.
Yes.
And then also, just my last question is the DOT ownership of 133, where does that start and when does that end?
It, as far as where
The property boundary?
Yeah,
well, there is one piece of 133 that's town road, believe it or not, from Howard's Flying Dragon to Water Street. Even so, the DOT didn't have a problem when they did the full-depth reconstruction of the roadway or the sidewalk project
okay.
to improve those areas anyway. And they don't raise their plow when they go through there either. So it's kind of a technicality. Are you saying, though, where does the state highway
So they
end?
have everything else. Everything else is state highway.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's that small section, which, again, they don't appear to discriminate.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
They
Thank
probably
you.
don't even know.
so I'll read this resolution for the board's consideration. Whereas the town of Essex established a local hazard mitigation planning team to prepare, the town of Essex Hazard Mitigation Plan 2025 update, and whereas the town of Essex Hazard Mitigation Plan 2025 update contains several potential future projects to mitigate potential impacts from natural hazards in the town of Essex, and whereas duly noticed public meetings were held by the Essex Board of Selectmen on October 23rd, 2023, and March 25th, 2024, and whereas the town of Essex authorizes responsible departments and/or agencies to execute their responsibilities demonstrated in the plan. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Essex Board of Selectmen adopts the town of Essex Hazard Mitigation Plan 2025 update in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 4, in the bylaws of the town of Essex, adopted and signed this date, November 3rd, 2025.
So moved?
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye. Thank you for all this work, Brendan. This is a lot.
Well, I'm glad we got to the next iteration of the plan and see where it comes. And that's the end of my report.
Okay, so now I'm going to move on to other business. And we have the approval of the weekly warrant in the amount of $123,95,078.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval, entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the Selectmen's October 20th open meeting.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Entertain a motion to accept the resignation as Deputy Harbor Master from Andrew Spinney.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I do want to say thank you, Andrew, for the months of work. I think you did a fantastic job. I'm sorry to see that he can't continue, but was really,
Did a lot of
Did a lot
great
of work and-
organizational work.
and identified a lot of
Yeah.
Yes.
critical issues that need
Is
to be
there a
addressed.
search for another deputy?
The harbor master is already considering whether there are other people that are suitable, yes.
So next, I'm going to entertain a motion to ratify the chairman's signature of a cooperative purchasing membership agreement, HGAC by, that will eventually allow for the direct purchase of a new fire tanker.
So moved.
Second?
This is funding based on a town meeting approval.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consider adding a notice to the tax bill. So you'll see this here. Basically, you know, Brendan had already written up this other portion,
Yeah, with fire and police input, yes.
and then I happened to steal this image. So
I was gonna say, who drew the house?
isn't it perfect?
I should have just said you drew it.
No, because that way if I get caught and there's money, the town can pay you. So, but I did think that that made the visual, and, you know, hopefully some residents will see it.
Can I make a suggestion that you make the image larger if you can?
Or the writing?
Can you do the adjustments, or do you want me to?
You should do it because you have the original.
All right.
But we can't go beyond 1/3 page.
I know, that's why
Yeah.
so I was trying to keep it so you could have three.
Yeah, I know. I'm just wondering if you can just expand it slightly and you can,
I'll
you know who's
try.
really good at this stuff? Teresa.
I'll try. But it just, like I
Yeah, I
said,
think this is
we
great.
wanted to get it in the tax bill. I think this is, you know,
So it would go out in the tax bill that will be the tax bill due February 1st. So it'll go out if we can still make this round. No, I think we already looked at that, right? It would be the round after that
no,
because there was a lead time.
well, find out what the lead time is. I thought we weren't going to do it in the last one that went out in October. That's why we,
Due November 1, right? So we're probably coming right up on it, but if I can make it, you want this in there, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
so
okay.
do you want us to vote to put it in there, or can,
Yeah, you might as well.
all right, so
And then you can do whatever edit you need to do.
I'm going to make a motion for the tax insert regarding house numbering and building numbering.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, lost my paper. Okay, moving on down the list. We want to entertain a motion to vote to approve the request from the Essex Lions Club to hold their 40th annual Turkey Trot Sunday, November 23rd, 2025, starting at 10 a.m.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any items, Brendan, that was not
I
anticipated?
think Pam wanted to mention one thing.
The tips.
Oh,
Several years ago, the board voted to require the alcohol renewal people to take the tips class in person every 5 years, and they could do the other years online. I've been the renewal packages went out this year, and this was the year that the tips class needed to be taken in person. And several people have called me back and said they cannot find anyone that will do the classes in person. And the request was made that we just go back to doing it online every year.
And so if the board is interested in that, we could put it on the agenda for discussion at your next meeting, but it would be good if generally you're okay with it so that Pam can answer their question. because the questions are coming in now.
What was the
So-
purpose of doing it in person?
Is Ruth still on? Was she on the committee when it came in?
It was
I'm
several
sure I
years
was.
ago. It was longer ago
It
than
was,
that.
yeah, and it came down to it being more reinforceable when you're in a, in a
Right.
in-person setting. But I think once we went through COVID, it started to wane. And really, we have heard similar comments every year, but there was always some last-ditch thing where somebody said, I'm holding a class over here, and everybody would go to it. But we're not finding that anymore.
And the online presentations and connections are so much more advanced.
Right, than it was when this thing was put together.
Yeah.
So,
So I did reach out to the guys I work for in the catering company, and I'll just read their comments, just take them with a grain of salt. He said, "It's quite extensive and better than any in-person course I've ever taken during the past 50 years." And then he made a snide remark about you can get a master's degree online, like this is just tip certification. He said, "Today people are so busy holding down 2 jobs, the bartenders are usually, if it's the first certification, probably you could ask for it, but if it's somebody who's done this for a while, it's really not necessary to do that. And in a group, you can lose focus during the class, and you can't fail, they won't let you." So online, he just said, I think that the online course is actually better.
Yeah.
And more robust, so,
so if it's okay,
yeah.
yeah, is it okay for Pam to say that the board will be considering very soon to go to an all online? And we could bring to you at the next meeting the revised text of the,
I would just like some bullets of what you have done as far as, you mentioned a couple of stories. Put them down so that it's in the notes,
Yeah.
that this is why we've decided to go online. We're not finding it. Here's some examples of what people have done.
But if somebody wants to go in person, they're not penalized. They can still.
no, they can still do it if they can find it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So next, we have the appointments, and we have a firefighter EMT probationary for Ellie Crocker, for a partial 1 year ending 6/30/26, subject to a drug and medical test.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And now we have for the licensing, we have a common vitular, how do you say it? Vitular license renewal for the Adrian Wilkins, Essex Woods Meeting and Retreat Center, LLC, at 1 Canomo Point,
So moved.
Second?
and an in-holders license renewal,
For the same location.
same location.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Reminder, we have our next regular Board of Selectmen meeting will take place Monday, November 17th, 2025, at 5:15 PM in the staff conference room at Essex Elementary School, located at 12 Story Street. And we have our fall town meeting will take place on Monday, November 17th, also at 6:45 in the gymnasium at the Essex Elementary.
5:15, not 5. Correct?
Does yours say 5?
No.
5:15.
Mine says 5:15.
5:15 is what,
We had
we look
5.
back at it, yeah.
5 was mentioned, I think, at the
5:15.
last meeting.
I
Yeah.
had put 5 at one point on my, in my phone, but
What is the nature of the stuff? Is it like a full meeting where we're doing all the same stuff, or is it just focused on the town meeting
No,
stuff?
it's pretty much.
No, and you have town council sitting there with you for part of the meeting, going over the motions, any questions that come up, et cetera.
Okay. And then in terms of like where the money's coming from, sometimes I know that changes in the last minute. but-
Yes, so the monetary summary that you have in draft could change as the finance committee continues to refine things, yes.
But essentially, you're not going to change the source funding for any of the articles,
Not that I know of,
essentially, in essentials,
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
and usually FinCom meets at the same time,
Yeah.
and then they come in and give us their last minute if anything changed, but
well, that monetary summary is going to get printed up so that I already have it with me that night.
Yeah.
Finance is going to meet, I'm sure, one more time between now and then, And then you'll get a copy of the monetary summary.
And they're
Final.
not posted. I checked today. I don't see anything posted between.
I'll ask about that.
And then,
They're getting a device, by the way. I ordered it today for people to participate in their meeting.
okay, but have they decided that they're gonna do that?
Yes.
When did they decide that?
I don't know. The chair contacted me and indicated that they're going to do that they want a device, and essentially, the device is capable of going on the conference table, being able to hear the people all the way around it, and all you do is you dial into the same
Meeting, yeah.
conference line that the public will be in,
Like a Jabra, right?
I guess.
So do we need that article? Whatever it was?
I don't think that we don't need that article then, if
Well, it
that's,
could be, it's already on the warrant, but it could be indefinitely postponed,
right. if
because
you
they
could
have agreed to do it.
I would love to see record of that.
I'll ask.
And then, what's the other question I had about, when do we've essentially, by putting forward the warrant, approved the articles, but the financial articles are voted on by the finance committee.
Yes.
And are they planning on doing that before their meeting, before town meeting? Or are they doing it at their pre-town meeting?
Sometimes it's as late as at their pre-town
Right,
meeting.
if we could have a sense of when they're doing that, that would be
I'll
great.
ask.
Okay. Can I make a motion to adjourn?
You may, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
These were very
Alva.
sensitive tonight.
Ruth?
For Annie's benefit, I just wanted to comment that we voted unanimously at the last finance committee meeting to have some sort of device, whether it's Polycom or whatever Brendan ordered. And because we don't have another meeting scheduled until fall town meeting day, we won't have approved minutes. So when Annie's saying she'd like to see proof of that, I guess as a finance committee member, I just want to comment out loud that it was a unanimous vote at a posted meeting. And she may not see the minutes until after fall town meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.